This is a quick video to revise for you the way in which the Armistice of 1918 and the stab in the back legend impacted upon the Weimar Republic and ultimately the rise of Nazi totalitarianism. As we look at these quick videos, always bear in mind that the only reason we are really studying this stuff is to look at how it contributed to the rise of the Nazis. So as we explore this video, think, how did the Armistice of 1918 and the stab in the back legend undermine the system of liberal, democratic, representative democracy that we've studied in class? I think it comes down to trust. I think it comes down to the faith that the public have in the politicians. So let's explore this a little bit. As I talk through these points, I'm going to run a couple of videos for you that you can find on YouTube if you wish. Have a look at these videos as they play. The first one, which I'm playing now and is loading, is the surrender of the German Navy in 1918 to the Allies. The second is images of the German army withdrawing from Belgium and France at the end of the First World War. So both of these are scenes of this, how the armistice played out after 4 years of war in the First World War. So let's go into a few of our key points. Firstly, when it comes up, in October 1918 and November 1918, it had become pretty clear to the German generals that commanded German forces on the Western Front that a defeat in the war would only be a matter of time. And so the generals advised that the emperor should abdicate and leave Germany. A democratic government should be set up in Germany that mimicked the style of government that operated in France and Britain, and that the German army and the German government should accept a ceasefire with the Western Allies. Now, the logic behind creating a Western-style representative democracy in Germany was always to ensure that Germany got fair treatment at the treaty that would emerge to wrap up the war after 1918. That ill-fated treaty was the Treaty of Versailles. Right from its outset, the Weimar Republic, as it came to be known, was seen as being associated with defeat in the war. But to blame the Weimar Republic for the defeat in the war would be pushing the facts just way too far. Clearly, Chris Condon in his book points out the population of Germany had become weary of war. Hunger and fear had undermined the system of government and the war effort of Imperial Germany. Germany needed a new government. How well accepted that government was by the public is open to a lot of argument, however. So that government fell, the Imperial government fell on November 9th, 1918, when the Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated his throne and moved to Holland. 2 days later, on the 11th of November 1918 at 11 a.m, a 20-year armistice or ceasefire commenced, which effectively ended the war. It's really interesting to note that General Foch, the French general, pointed out that this was not a permanent peace. This was only a ceasefire. And 20 years and 64 days later, World War II broke out. So interestingly enough, that ceasefire only just lasted 20 years. Certainly there was a peace treaty, but it's interesting he anticipated the cease in fighting would last 20 years, and he was right. From the outset, the Weimar Republic, which negotiated and accepted the terms of the armistice, was associated with defeat. Okay? It was also associated with the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which followed that peace. Okay, let's now have a look at other elements. One of the reasons that this Weimar government was so weakened was the development, largely after a speech by General Ludendorff, who became a Nazi, of a concept called the stab in the back legend. okay, or the stab in the back myth. The argument is that the Germans were not defeated by the Triple Entente, but by November criminals, civilians at home who defeated the German Navy and German Army. The November criminals, to a Nazi, to the National Socialists, to nationalist extremists who joined groups such as the Freikorps in the interwar era, included centrist, moderate political parties, socialists, communists, and according to some nationalists, those people living in Germany who claimed to be Jewish but were not ethnically part of the people's community, the Jews. To a German nationalist, generally speaking, all the socialists, communists, liberals, Democrats, other revolutionaries who existed than Jews were just birds of a feather, according to some sources. Those kind of views really weakened the Weimar democracy from the outset. And throughout the 1920s, it played a huge role at the hands of our right-wing nationalists. The stab in the back theory, the Armistice, and later the Treaty of Versailles were all laid at the feet of the Weimar government as examples of the way in which that new democracy had betrayed Germany. So, in your study, I would urge you to think about how the concepts of November criminals, stab in the back, and armistice all play into a rise of the National Socialist movement, a rise for Hitler. How did those concepts weaken the Weimar Republic? When the Weimar Republic was weakened, it was the Nazis who ultimately benefited.